Thanks for clicking on to the Monday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. It is the second last video of 2024. Did you get the chance to look at, or watch, should I say, the final live stream of 2024 yesterday? It was an epic 1 hour, 6 minute. There was over 100 concurrent viewers. It was fantastic to see folks jumping on, having a little chat with us, and enjoying the crack. But yes, we are going to be talking about wind, rain, snow, increase in cold over the next few days. But also, it's turned out to be quite a wet month, especially further north over the UK. While it's been probably slightly drier than average further south, but through the past several months, it has been the bulk of England and Wales that has been wetter than average, drier the further north you go. But that's kind of flipped on its head during the month of December anyway. And over the last 24 hours, we've seen some significant amounts of rain up at Loch Liscarnock, for example, 47.2 millimetres of rain fallen. And even here at Marfogan Weather HQ, over an inch of rain fell through the first 8 hours or so of the day, from midnight to about 8 a.m. Certainly, we recorded 25.60 millimeters of rain over the past 72 hours. This is the rain totals according to the Meteosale website, and again, very little in the way of rain over the last 72 hours across anywhere from kind of the central part of Scotland, anyway, through the southern uplands, and the bulk of England, Wales, Ireland, and Northern Ireland hasn't seen a great deal in the way of rainfall. But this is the rain projection of the ECMWF over the next several days as we say goodbye to 2024 and greet the new year. We're going to see more heavy rainfall actually spreading in through the course of this evening and through the first half of tomorrow. It's the next in this series of areas of low pressure that are moving from west to east across the country, primarily across the northern UK. This, I know there's a lot of focus on Scotland and perhaps Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Northern England in recent days. Very little in the way of weather to speak about through the Midlands and into southern UK. But it's generally, this is where the weather's been. We've had a boundary across the far north of Scotland, colder air to the north, somewhat milder across the south. But that is going to change as we move through the course of tomorrow, and particularly in the New Year's Day itself. We've got one system moving through tomorrow. We had obviously the one today, another tomorrow, and then on Wednesday, New Year's Day, we've got a system that could generate 70 plus mile per hour winds across the central swathe of England. And also, we're going to start to talk about the snow potential growing as we move towards the middle portions of this week, and then increasingly cold as we progress from midweek onwards as well. Now, so that is the rain totals all the way up to the end of New Year's Day itself. We could see in excess of 100 millimetres of rain falling in parts of the Snowdonia region, the Welsh Mountains, Cumbria, Lancashire as well. But it's really up the western side of Scotland in particular, especially where you've got the flow bumping into the high ground. We've got that orographic lift, so we've got enhanced rainfall associated with that. And let's have a look closely at let's first of all look at England and Wales. So there's no accusation of bias here, but this is towards the end of Wednesday and then towards the end of Friday. Wouldn't be surprised if we see parts of high ground, Southern Ireland, Wales, and northwest England, even around the Greater Manchester area. We could see in excess of 50 millimetres of rain, even 60 plus millimetres of rain, perhaps around the Peak District, for example, parts of the Pennines, obviously, and into the north of England also over the period. This is all the way out to Sunday, the 5th of January. Looking at Scotland for the same time frame, all the way out to the end of Sunday, and you've got in excess of 100 millimetres of rain quite easily, anywhere from the to the west of Glasgow, up through Argyll, Loch Aber, and into the northwest Highlands. Also, looking at this, I want to focus back on the weather through the next 72 hours or so in a second. But this really caught my attention, folks. This is the CFSv2 for the month of January, and we've got an almost textbook negative AO NAO pattern with twin troughs either side. This is about as conducive as you could possibly get in terms of a 500 millibar pattern for the whole month of January. This would be textbook, almost, it's like a cold weather lover has drawn the ultimate map in terms of wintry conditions. We've got this ridge up the western side of North America, up into the Arctic. We've got two cores of high pressure, one centered almost over the pole, the other over southern Greenland, and then you've got that stretched out trough across central and western Europe, and also anywhere from central Canada right down to Florida and along the east coast. This, folks, is certainly an impressive looking CFSv2 map in terms of winteriness. Looking at the month of, this is the GFS ensemble over the next several days, and you can see as we go through the course of tomorrow, we've actually got slightly milder airlift north over the UK, so we're actually going to start to see temperatures moderate. We've had a chilly 3-4 degrees at very best across northern UK through this afternoon, but the 10-12 Celsius across the central belt and points south, a little bit cooler underneath the more stagnant air across eastern and southeastern England. You can see here the temperature anomaly for today, Monday 30th of December. We've got that cold just on the northern flank, generally from north of Inverness, warmer than average further south. Play through the loop. You can see here that the cold gets shifted a little bit further north ahead of the next feature that moves through during the course of tonight and tomorrow. Then it's as that system clears out, we've got the system that moves through during the course of New Year's Day itself, and it's once that feature then moves through, we're in the colder air. But you notice the GFS ensemble this is. So this is the run of all the models joined together, so you get a better trend, a better handle, rather than like looking at the individual operational model runs, which we know go back and forward, and that certainly has been the case. But watch as we play through this loop. We're in the colder than average air, UK, Ireland, near continent, Scandinavia as well. Continue to play through, and you notice that the cold lingers at colder than average temperature, normally lingers all the way through the course of the rest of this week into next week. So this is Tuesday, the 7th of January, Wednesday, the 8th of January, and we play through this loop, and you can see that the cold just maintains itself all the way out to the 15th of the month. And that is interesting. We know that the cold, there's going to be spells with this cold spell that will weaken, it will moderate, and then I think what's going to happen is we're going to kind of re-intensify these waves of cold air periodically into this generally somewhat locked in pattern. If you've got this kind of locked in setup with the twin ridges over the top, you've got the trough over the eastern side of North America, western side of Europe, and there's going to be a little bit of flexibility here in the overall pattern. But generally speaking, this is looking very interesting and something to take note of. It is not every day that you see a CFSv2 run that shows the month of January in particular. Obviously, the climatological peak of winter. Generally you've got the coldest conditions of the entire year in the month of January, and this is the 2 meter temperature anomalies for the month of January. So we've got the cold over Western Europe, including UK and Ireland, and the cold over Eastern United States. Looking at the Europe specifically, and this was something I posted on social media. Obviously, it's not a guarantee by any stretch. We know that, but you do not often see the CFSv2, which is typically biased warm, show this amount of cold for an entire 4-week period during the heart of winter. It really does not happen very often, and I would be curious to know exactly when the last time we've seen that showing up on the models here. There is a little bit of contradiction, however. We've looked at the CFSv2, we've looked at the GFS ensemble, but if you look at the stratosphere, it's interesting that we're going to start to see this rapid weakening of the mean zone of winds, primarily due to that blocking within the high latitudes. That's going to create a frictional effect, wave breaking within the polar vortex. You see this drop off the average then it returns, the mean zonal wind anyway, returns to record strong territory, despite the fact that I've just showed you the type of pattern that both the GFS ensemble and the CFSv2 is alluding to. But the ensemble mean, the ECM ensemble mean, is indicating that it actually remains above average in terms of the mean zonal wind all the way through to what, near the middle of February. That is an interesting one because just a few model runs ago or a few days ago, that thick red line, which is the ensemble mean, was actually below average for a reasonably prolonged period of January. It's now showing a stronger than average mean zonal wind. Another little small concern that I have is when you look at the 50 millibar level, and that tends to reflect quite nicely the 500 millibar pattern underneath. You've got a lot of low heights, if you notice, over Greenland and over the eastern side of the Arctic region. So basically, the Eurasian side of the pole, we've got a lot of low heights. That, to me, folks, would actually scream out the opposite of what the models are indicating in terms of the pressure pattern at 500 millibars. Usually, those low heights within the lower portions of the stratosphere suggest more of a positive Arctic oscillation than North Atlantic oscillation, rather than the opposite. So there is a little bit of confliction going on here between what's happening within the stratosphere versus what's happening within 500 millibar pattern. This almost is a perfect example of how decoupled the stratosphere versus the troposphere, in terms of the polar vortex anyway, can be. And I've noticed this for quite some time now, that it's indicating these very low heights within the 50 millibar level or the lower portion of the strat. So you even see here all the way out to 360 plus hours, we've got a very robust and quite strong polar vortex showing up. And actually, this would make sense. So that's the GFS and GFS I'm showing you in terms of the temperature profile within the 50 millibar level, and this is the zonal mean wind at 10 millibars off the ECMWF model. So there is some very interesting disconnect between strat and trope that I have to point out and show you. But this is going to be a very fascinating watch into the month of January. Let's have a quick look and see what the CFSv2 is indicating in terms of the weeklies anyway. So this is the upcoming 7-day period, and we've got the colder air now starting to drill south over the UK and Ireland. Bitterly cold compared to average next 7 days over Iceland. We've got exceptional warmth across eastern Canada, and really much of North America is actually warmer than average over the next 7 days. But look at week 2, and this is textbook Greenland blocking with the twin troughs either side as we move into the 8 to 14 days. So very cold compared to average over Europe, including UK and Ireland. And look at Central and Eastern North America, and where the warm is showing, that is where you've got the most positive heights compared to average. So generally, the Baffin Straits up in the Greenland, up into the Arctic region, with these twin pools of cold within the tropospheric. Essentially, your tropospheric polar vortex is sitting over Eastern North America and Western Europe as we move through the period. This would be 6th through the 13th of January. So fascinating stuff at the moment here. I want to also show you something that's interesting. We have got a 10 meter temperature anomaly at the core of the coldest. Well, it's 23 Celsius below average. But see here where you've got the bright red showing up. This is the warming that's taking place due to that frictional effects of the height rising over the Arctic. We've got a maximum temperature anomaly of plus 48 Celsius. So when you've got a temperature rising to close to 50 Celsius compared to average, that's your kind of sudden stratospheric warming territory. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen, but that is an incredibly warm anomaly, nearly 50, like I say, nearly 50 Celsius compared to average over northern Asia here, and the coldest compared to averages on the North America, Atlantic, and UK side of the pole. So there is so many things that's going on at the moment here. It's actually really quite hard to keep up with. In fact, the Arctic Oscillation is tanking to the deepest negative of in quite some time. We've obviously seen fluctuations during the course of autumn with the AO and the NAO going strongly positive, and generally the trend has been negative through the back half of November, even towards the early and mid December. We've actually had a borderline, slightly weaker Arctic Oscillation in terms of negative anyway. But look at how strongly negative the AO is going here, week one of January. So that is coinciding very nicely with what the all the models are suggesting. ECM, GFS, CFSv2, all suggesting this tanking of the Arctic Oscillation due to those pressure rises over the North Atlantic. This is the NAO, and we're going from quite firmly positive into firmly negative. And one of the main reasons for this, by the way, is that Phase 7 MJO. That has been a terrific teleconnection for me using throughout the course of the autumn. Since we ended summer back in August, through the month of September, we went from a record strong positive NAO during the month of August to record strong negative NAO during the month of September. Then we've seen these big swings back and forward, and it's correlated beautifully between the warm and cold phases of the MJO. And this is a perfect textbook example of that MJO rotating into phases of 7 and possibly even into phases 8. And it looks as if it's going to be a reasonably prolonged period of negative here showing up. So if we look back at the CFSv2, this is the 8 to 14 day with the cold over eastern and central North America and over the majority of Europe actually. Even into the week 3, we've actually still got a cold and average signal. This is now 13th of January through the 20th of January, both over Europe and over eastern North America. That warmer than normal model run that you typically don't associate with cold is indicating that the cold lingers through the next 3 weeks at least. So that is very, very interesting indeed to look at. So even over the course of this week, we're seeing the slight downward push of Arctic air. Then it's going to get kicked north. Then systems move from east to west. The modelling is going to go back and forward, by the way, and I'm kind of a wee bit sometimes tired of looking at posts on either Facebook or Twitter, people jumping on various model runs. The GFS will show this incredibly cold model run. Then the following model run, it shows less cold. People jump on that, they tweet it, they post it on Facebook, and it's like, don't go by each individual run, but it's better to look at the overall trend. And I have to emphasize that point. I'm going by what the longer term modeling trend is, and that is for cold. We know there's going to be back and forth in this overall pattern, but what's the longer term trend showing? And I'm quite taken aback actually by how cold and how long this the CFSv2 is holding the cold over both sides of the Atlantic. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But certainly looking at the latest of the Met Office model, this is the period through the course of today. So we had that heavy rain changing over to some snow as the cold air it started to drift a little bit further south. That feature then moved south with the wind and heavy rainfall through the central belt of Scotland into the north of England, across parts of Northern Ireland. Also, we're seeing those wintry showers getting driven in on a northerly flow. Then, as we progress through the course of this evening, the next band of moisture runs into that cold air. So we're going to see snow over a medium to high level ground, rain to low levels. That band will then move through. There is an amber warning, by the way, being issued for the Central Highlands because of the amount of rain that fell over the last couple of days, and then we're going to see more heavy rainfall, maybe upwards of 100 millimeters falling within the next few days. Again, a cause for concern with regards to flooding, etc. So there's heavy snowfall breaking out as that colder kind of settles in during the course of this evening, and then that moisture bumps into that cold air. We'll see heavy rainfall changing over to snow. But then, as milder air gets lifted northwards, again, I know I'm not talking about England and Wales much, or Ireland, or Northern Ireland. It's because we've not got an awful lot of weather to speak about, folks. So I'm sure you will appreciate that. Then, as we continue to play through the course of tomorrow, we continue to see that moisture running in across the northern half of the British Isles here. So those rainfall totals are going to mount up tonight and through the first half of tomorrow. That band then sinks its way southwards. We're left with showers through the afternoon, milder temperatures as well. So we're back into close to double figures even across northern UK during the course of tomorrow. Then, as we move into New Year's Day itself, we're going to have a band moving southwards with rain at low levels, snow over to higher levels. Not a great deal to speak about. And then we've got the next feature that could be more problematic for Ireland, England, and Wales as we progress through the course of New Year's Day itself. We could see flooding issues. This won't be a wintry system much for northern portions of England. We may see a little bit of snow on the northern flank of that boundary here, but we are going to see snow showers running southwards here. Probably low level, it will be rain, but over medium to high ground, we could see accumulations of snow with this band moving southwards. But the concern actually is wind and rain. Probably the wind actually is the biggest concern for parts of southern Ireland and also England and Wales. The concern isn't so much across northern UK during the course of Wednesday. That then all moves bodily east and south. We're left with the northerly flow, and it's really from about the middle portions of Wednesday, New Year's Day, that we're going to start to see colder air getting driven south over the UK and over Ireland, and then that is going to start to set the tone, I think, for what we can expect further down the road. So let's have a quick look at snow depth. There are so many things to cover at the moment. It's really quite difficult to keep up with everything, and that's why these videos are becoming a little bit longer in recent times. So we see the snow generally to the north of Inverness accumulating through the course of today. Then it dissipates slightly, and then as milder air moves in, we do have a little bit more snow breaking out overnight tonight into tomorrow morning as that next band of moisture bumps into the cold air that's settling in through this evening. Then, as we move through the course of tomorrow, that day snow will start to melt, especially over Central Highland, as milder air moves in behind that frontal boundary itself. Still got some decent accumulations seen by the Met Office model across Northern Highland, for example. Continue to play through as we move out of Tuesday. The Hogmanay into New Year's Day itself. We've got more snow starting to show up across Central Highland and North Highland, parts of high ground to southern Scotland, northern England, as well as Ireland and Northern Ireland. Continue to play through this loop here, and really not a great deal to speak about north of the Central Belt all the way out to the end of this week. So, in terms of a snow perspective, really, unless you're north of Glasgow, Edinburgh, you're not going to see a great deal of snow apart from the highest elevations of England and Wales, possibly parts of Northern Ireland. Glen Shane Pass, for example, may see some decent amounts of snow through the middle portions of this week. In terms of the temperature, and we'll kind of end with this. You can see here that we are going to see a rise in temperature. So a fall initially through the overnight tonight, and then a rise through the course of tomorrow as that next feature moves in. So you can actually see here as we move towards the afternoon tomorrow, we're talking about temperatures into upper single figures, near double figures, above freezing, even up towards the Inverness area. Again, a bit of a contrast here between the north coast and down towards Inverness. Could range anywhere from 9 Celsius to 1 Celsius, kind of similar to what we had today. Then as we move through the second half of tomorrow into tomorrow evening, Hogmanay, into the first half of New Year's Day itself, there's that cold air starting to dig southwards once again. Still 10, 11, possibly even 12 Celsius over parts of mid Wales, South Wales, through the Midlands and southern portions of the UK here. Slightly cooler across Ireland and Northern Ireland, as can be seen here. But this is through the course of New Year's Day itself. We'll see the cold air digging south becoming more established. And then as we move out of Wednesday into the 2nd of January, we are starting to see the temperatures really drop. Double digits below freezing is very possible. Wednesday night into Thursday, Thursday into Friday, and possibly even colder than that still as we move towards the latter half of Friday into the beginning of the weekend, we could see double figures below freezing, even in England and Wales, for example, as that colder air really becomes more firmly established. In fact, we could see the coldest conditions on Friday morning across the bulk of England and Wales. Not as cold, still below freezing, seen by the Met Office model, but not as cold across northern Scotland as opposed to the heart of England, where we could see temperatures close to -10 according to the Met Office model. And then we start to see the cold setting in as we progress through the course of late this week, and through the course of next week is looking pretty cold as well. And I think the cold pattern is probably here to stay, given what I'm seeing overall. A lot to take in. I do appreciate that. I hope you've enjoyed the content here. And folks here in southern UK and southern Ireland, I do apologise that there's been a lot of emphasis on northern Britain in the past few days, but that has generally been where the weather has resided. But a very busy couple of days to come. I promise to continue to keep you up to date as best I can. We've got a whole mixture of weather. We've got a rise and fall in terms of the temperature. So stick around, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you tomorrow with more updates. Bye for now. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.